Okay. This is a framework for learning, a five-dimensional framework. It is okay. It is called dimensions of learning. It was proposed around 20 years ago. It was the PhD work of one who is now a very renowned professor, Professor Marzano. Uh, and he proposed that there are five dimensions of learning that uh, are integrated and play a role in the process of learning. Uh, and this kind of integrates the Bloom and Solow taxonomy within these dimensions. Okay, you will tell me how does it integrate the Bloom and how does it integrate the Solow taxonomy within this framework. Okay, and it has things that the Bloom and the Solow taxonomy were not concerned about. It has those things also. Okay, so first two are the outer dimensions that are in which the learning is taking place. First is the dimension number one, which is positive attitude and perceptions about the process of learning, motivation for learning. That unless the learner has enthusiasm, curiosity, a positive attitude, no learning will take place, irrespective of who is the teacher and what is the laboratory, which is the university, and what is the what is the infrastructure available, and what kind of books are available, what kind of resources are available. Give anything, and it will not work if the attitude of the learner is not positive and if one is not enthusiastic. If one is thoroughly demotivated, one is in the stage of um, either lethargy or not interested or fear, one would not learn anything. So that is a precondition kind of a thing, and good amount of time has to be uh, given by the environment to create that positive attitude. And at a senior level, it is expected that the students who come for senior level of learning have a positive attitude towards learning. Learning is not a pain for them. They enjoy learning. Okay. I remember it was my good fortune to work with uh, one Dr. Kapila Vatsyayan. You may not have heard of her name. She died recently. She was a great scholar in the field of Indian culture studies, and okay, and Indian dances particularly, but largely a lot of uh, Indian cultural studies. And once a journalist was interviewing her, and she was very senior person at that time. One a journalist was interviewing her, and he asked, "What do you do for pleasure? Okay, what do you do for enjoyment and pleasure?" You guess what was her answer? Can you guess her answer? You are a great scholar. What do you do for pleasure?
Sir, keep learning,
Read
Study,
books.
study, yeah, study.
studying.
And the journalist did not understand the answer. She asked it again, and she repeated the answer. You know, so एक जो the hunger for learning, that thirst for learning, that I have to know more, I have to understand more, and spend a lot of time in learning, reading books, interacting with the scholars. Okay, so this positive attitude is very very important, and this is sometimes the greatest differentiator between very successful learners and mediocre people. Okay, this is the great differentiator. Okay, and PhD scholars particularly will have to have very very positive attitude towards learning, because there will be moments of uh, low motivation, results will not come. You will there I guarantee in the next few years you are going to feel lost, you are going to feel low, because it is not a very structured program. that you do this course, you make this grade, and the success is guaranteed. Because you are learning all the known things so far. The process ahead is very, very different. ये ऐसे है जैसे सड़क पर गाड़ी चला रहे थे और जंगल में उतार दी। तो शहर के अंदर गाड़ी चलाना एक बात थी, वो तो सड़कें बना रखी थी ना किसी ने तुम्हारे लिए, somebody had made the road, somebody had made the traffic lights, the rules were there, okay, and the people were following the traffic rules. So you just had to know some rules and follow, and certain skills, and you could drive very well. But if you just get with that car in a jungle where there are no roads, no rules, okay, it's a very different journey. It's a very, very different journey. While the experience of driving in the cities will be helpful, but it is going to be very, very different experience. The car will have to be different. Same cars cannot possibly be driven in the jungle. You have to have more sumo or jeep kind of vehicles. Your Honda City will certainly not work well in jungle. Successful city cars, Mercedes will possibly flop you. The best cars of the city will not be there. I mean, you have to go to a Mahindra, you have to go to a Tata or a Fortune or something like that.
Sir, Hummer.
Yeah?
Hummer.
Hummer?
Yes, sir.
Hummer मतलब?
Sir, कार है सर, जीप टाइप.
अच्छा, मुझे नहीं पता था इसका. अच्छा, कार जैसी कोई कार लेनी पड़ेगी तुमको महिंद्रा की, तो और and then your skills have to be different. सिटी पे चलाने वाली दूसरी स्किल्स थी, जंगल में चलाने के लिए आई डोंट थिंक आई विल बी एबल टू ड्राइव वेल देयर. उसमें तो इतने गड्ढे आएंगे, इतना कुछ होगा ना, सरफेस विल बी सो डिफिकल्ट टेरेन, राइट? So you have to have a lot of patience. You will certainly not get the kind of a speed that you are getting in the cities on the roads. You will certainly not get the speed. Highway वाली speed तो बिल्कुल नहीं मिलने वाली है. Forget that in the jungle. Maybe it will be 5% of that. Okay. Those of you who have ever done a safari, how many of you have done a safari drive in a jungle? हाँ, पायल ने किया है. तो सफारी का जो ड्राइव था और शहर के का जो ड्राइव था उसमें क्या फर्क लगा?
Sir, I had done in 12th class.
Yes.
In Corbett National Park.
You are not 72-year-old. Your 12th class was just few years ago. You can
Yes.
still recall it. Yeah.
Sir, I don't remember properly.
You don't remember? Okay. Okay. You did not enjoy it. Who else? Has anyone else has done a safari in any jungle? Rajasthan has so many jungles.
Yeah, sir. I also did.
So what is the
Sir, Bannerghatta.
Okay, what is the difference you notice?
Of driving in this wall city and the safari, the major difference was that, sir, therein, well, I'll find a similarity of very less speed. And the roads are also very bumpy, both in the safaris, in Ranthambore also and in cities also.
Actually, even safari is not such a very good example for PhD, because safari is also usually done on the same road. See, there is a track which every vehicle is following the same track. That track is really not concrete track, but it is the same track that everybody is following. But imagine you getting down in a jungle without that track. That kind of a safari, a trackless, where you have to explore and find a new track. That kind of journey PhD will be. So there will be challenges. You will get stuck. I guarantee you will certainly get stuck. So at that time, the only thing that will rescue you from that problem is your positive attitude, your confidence. You will have to have a huge amount of positive attitude and confidence. Okay. And certainly it has to be supplemented by productive habits of mind. That is the second dimension. Okay. What are the productive habits of mind? That whatever information comes your way, you examine it critically. You do not just believe it blindly. You do an innovative thinking. You are able to imagine new horizons. You are able to imagine new integration possibilities. You are able to integrate multiple concepts. You are able to integrate multiple disciplines also if required. and you have to test. So you have certain scholarly productive habits of mind that your mind has to be trained in. Your mind has already been trained in. So many years of education has trained your mind in certain productive habits. You have to sharpen those habits, because those habits were put to some use so far. You have to put them to stronger usage now, and you'll have to sharpen your productive habits of mind, particularly the critical thinking and creative thinking, and regulating your own self progress. That how much time you are managing your own time, that kind of habit you will have to. So far the habits that you developed were for well specified courses, well specified goals. Now the goal itself is not so well specified. You are going to define the goal, and it is going to be defined over a period of time. It is not going to be, I can't tell you, I mean, that take next 6 months and define your goal very concretely. It is impossible. It is impossible to define all the goals very concretely, very specifically. Okay, you will have broad goals, and you will have to continue to refine your goals and iterate and refine. That process will continue. So the productive habits of mind are being critical, being mindful, being creative, being innovative. With those productive habits of mind, supported by the positive attitude, positive perceptions about learning, and not getting bogged down by the failures that will certainly be there, then the learning takes place. So these are the dimension 1 and dimension 5 I have discussed. First dimension is positive attitude and perception. Fifth dimension is productive habits of mind. Okay, and with these in this ecosystem, or in this mental framework of right attitude, right perceptions, and right habits of mind, knowledge acquisition starts. Okay, so the first dimension is, at one level you are acquiring new knowledge and integrating the acquired knowledge with the known knowledge. Okay, you are, and we discussed it in the last class also. Okay, understanding is always in terms of known things. So when you say I see, I gave that example, you understand a link of the new thing with some old thing that you already understand. A new link gets established in your mind, and that's how you integrate that. So if you acquire some knowledge without integrating it with what you already understand well, the acquired knowledge will not last for long. It will be forgotten, as it happened with lot of knowledge that we acquired for the purpose of cracking a particular exam, but maybe board exam or some other competitive exam. Okay, we acquired a lot of knowledge, and within 3 days of the exam we had almost forgotten 80% of it. Has it happened with you or not?
Sir, yes, sir.
Because we put it in our at the uppermost layer of our memory. We did not integrate it with our other parts of knowledge very deeply. Even if there was an integration, it was very superficial integration. Okay, ब्लूम की टैक्सोनॉमी में बोले तो
Understanding level.
at the most, we remembered a lot of it. We remembered, and because we just remembered, it was forgotten, or we just at the most understood it at that time. We did not apply it, we did not analyze it, we did not integrate it with something, we did not evaluate it, so it got forgotten. Okay, in the psychology theory, there is a process called elaboration. Elaboration takes place when we do deeper level processing with the content that we have acquired. Deeper level processing. Processing with the content can be superficial level or deeper level. When we are dealing with the content at a superficial level, like trying to recall it, remember it, or do very simple things with it, not reflect on it in a deeper manner, it is likely to be forgotten after some time. But if we elaborate it, we integrate it with other content, we link it with other things, we analyze it, we put it in different applications, we synthesize, we try to extend it, we try to extract it, try to further refine it, those kind of elaboration mechanisms help us retain the material for much longer. Okay. Failures are important, and the acquisition and integration of knowledge is one dimension. Dimension 2 in this 5-dimensional framework of learning. Okay, dimension 2 is acquisition and integration of knowledge, which will continue in all these next few years. That you'll be reading a lot of literature on a focused theme. PhD is not just about breadth. It is going deep into a topic, very deep into a topic. So you will be acquiring more knowledge in an area which no one else, at least in Jaipur, has. Forget only JKLU. I'm saying, in fact, some of the top universities may claim that the purpose of PhD is to make you world's top class expert in that area. World's top class expert, not just in your groups. Okay, so you will be acquiring a lot of new knowledge, you will be integrating a lot of, and this knowledge will be new knowledge. And where do you find this new knowledge? Of course, you find it in books, but books will not have absolutely recent new knowledge. Where would you find the recent new knowledge? Where would you find the recent, latest new knowledge, which is authentic? Research paper, which is authentic also. It has to be authentic, not just opinion. It has to be authentic also. So peer-reviewed, good quality research papers having good impact, research journals by good publishers, research conferences by good organizers like IEEE or ACM in computer science and engineering and electronics. And there are other reputed, or Harvard Business Review kind of, or there are many other ABSCO database is there in our library, which is subscribed. Management people can use that. Seek out the help from the LRC. Okay, the LRC staff, they will guide you what are the journals you should read that we have subscription to. And there are many online, there is a lot of online literature also. And if there is something that is not available in our library, our librarian can help you get that also from other libraries using a membership that we have with a network of libraries. Okay. Also read PhD thesis related to your area. Very, very important. Okay. And now there is Government of India's initiative. They started it a couple of years ago. So they have created a huge repository of PhD theses. All the universities in the country are expected to upload the PhD thesis on that.
Shodh Ganga?
Yes, Shodh Ganga. It is called Shodh Ganga. InflibNet is the organization that maintains it. And please go to Shodh Ganga. Okay. And there is, in fact, another resource called Shodh Gangotri. Okay. Where the proposals of the research, PhD research and synopsis, etc. are uploaded. Okay. So, but Shodh Ganga is the right resource. Please develop a habit of reading a PhD thesis. Okay. Because the ultimate objective, the ultimate deliverable that you have to create is a PhD thesis at the end of few years. So during this process, if you have read couple of PhD theses, it will be much more easier for you to write a PhD thesis. You know, you can't write. Did you write an essay in school?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Before writing the essay, did you read some essay or you just wrote one essay all of a sudden?
Right, sir.
So you had to read so many essays before writing one essay, right? Before writing a poem, Abhilash, how many poems did you read before you wrote your first poem?
Number of poems at least 20 to 50.
A lot of poems you had read in maybe more. In early school, you started reading poems. और हिंदी फिल्मों के गाने भी तो poem ही हैं. वो इतने सुने, है ना? रेडियो बजता रहता था, right?
Yes, sir.
So hundreds of poems you heard before writing your first poem, right? How many How many paintings does a painter look at before really making a good painting? So you have to create
I think thousands.
thousands. So all the painters like to visit the painting exhibitions of other artists. All the great singers like to listen to the other singers. All the writers like to read the books of the other writers. It is very, very important to see the work done by others before you. Examples of many experts who have been great writers or great orators spending a lot of time in practicing what they were doing, and that practice was not seen by people, and they became the finest examples as a writer or as an orator. Okay, so they spent a lot of time practicing writing or writing their speeches or writing their essays and iterating over it. So you have to read a lot. Okay, so this acquisition and integration of knowledge. Acquisition has to go along with integration. So you acquire something new and try to integrate it with something that you already know. Very important. Do not just acquire. Do not let it remain as isolated. If I am talking of the analogy of a network, do not collect a lot of dots. Each dot that you collect, try to immediately connect it with the network that already exists in your mind. The learning that you have in your mind can be modeled as a network of concepts and facts. Okay. You try to further strengthen that network by adding more nodes and also adding new links. Okay. So this is dimension number 2, acquisition and integration of knowledge. Then the third dimension is extending and refining that knowledge. Okay, extending and refining that knowledge means you are not only acquiring and integrating, you are working at a deeper level now. You are trying to extend it further. Okay, or you are trying to refine it further. What has been told to you, what has been written for you, that is not your limit. Now you are trying to correlate it with something else. You are trying to find its differences with other things. You are trying to correlate it with other things. Okay, so the processes of correlation, processes of differentiation, etc., or comparison, those kind of processes you undertake, abstraction, those kind of processes you undertake. Okay, extending and refining knowledge. Fourth is using knowledge meaningfully. What is that? Designing something new, solving a problem, not just refining the knowledge, not just creating knowledge, but using that knowledge to solve a problem.
Application.
Not just application. Application in a
With
new
creating-
situation. Application in a very new situation. Okay. Problem solving is of two types. One is the solving a problem that you have already solved 100 times. Okay. Similar to that. I'm not talking of using knowledge for that kind of problem solving. I'm talking of it, solving it for solving problems that you have not yet solved before. Others may have solved it, but for you, this is a new problem. You have not solved it.
Like jungle safari. We lost
Like
our
jungle
way.
safari, like jungle safari, like jungle safari. You have to solve it. Others may have traveled that journey, but you have not.
Yes.
With this car, you have not. Okay.
Yes.
If driving the car on the road is problem solving when you are learning driving, then it is problem solving. But once you have learned driving and you are an expert driver on the roads of the city, driving of the city is not problem solving. When Satya drives his car in Bangalore, are you solving a problem, Satya?
No, sir.
That's not problem solving because na mind लगता है उसमें, माइंड कुछ और सोच रहा होता है और वो प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग चल रही है, दिमाग कहीं और लगा हुआ होता है ना पैरेलली,
Yes.
प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग नहीं हो रही होती है, क्योंकि प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग तो किसी और चीज में कर रही है। तो गाड़ी चल रही है आराम से, एक with lesser attention space you can drive it because you are so much of experience with it now. Okay, but when you are learning at that time 100% attention देना पड़ता था ना. Okay, so problem solving means solving an unsolved problem, at least not solved by you. Okay, coming out with some creative idea, some new idea, taking some decision. There is a choice to be made between A or B, and after doing all analysis of the knowledge, after collecting all applications of knowledge, taking decisions is a very, very meaningful application of knowledge. If you are not using knowledge for taking decisions, then knowledge is useless. Okay, so if you are not using knowledge for solving some problems, that knowledge is useless. Okay, it is knowledge only for the sake of knowledge. Then meaningful applications are solving some problems. Those problems can be theoretical also. It is not necessary that the problems have to be practical. Those problems that you are solving using your knowledge can also be the problems related to theory. Okay, but unless you use the knowledge to solve some problem, to resolve a situation, to resolve a conflict, to take a decision, unless you do those kind of things, or to extend a theory, okay, to create a new theory, okay, which does not exist, create a new framework, developing these kind of models that Marzano created. This is a meaningful application of knowledge. To create such meaningful application, this is like creating a new theoretical framework which can be useful for understanding a phenomena, which can be useful for understanding a situation, or which can be useful for managing a situation, or improving a phenomena, or improving a process. Right? So such frameworks, building such frameworks is also a meaningful application of theory. So it's not limited to only practical work. Even the word of theory can be used for contributing meaningful applications of the knowledge. Okay, so these are the 5 dimensions of learning. With the positive attitude and perceptions, with productive habits of mind. On one hand, you are acquiring and integrating new knowledge. You are extending and refining the newly acquired as well as the old knowledge. When you acquire new knowledge, it may help you to extend the old knowledge. It may help you to refine the old knowledge. So old as well as new knowledge, both you are trying to extend and refine. And once you extend and refine, that might give you a paper. You might publish a paper which is actually about extending and refining knowledge. Okay, and then using knowledge meaningfully. These are the 5 dimensions. PhD's purpose is to use knowledge meaningfully. You have to create theoretical contributions to show that you have created new kind of knowledge. Creating new knowledge is also using knowledge meaningfully. Okay, and you have discovering something is creating using knowledge meaningfully. Okay, inventing something is using knowledge meaningfully. Designing something or solving a problem, whether a social problem or a technical problem or a managerial problem, that's meaningful application of knowledge. Okay, so these are the 5 dimensions that you do as per this model. Okay, these little notes I have put. Okay, this you can read. Okay, like extending, this is positive attitudes and perceptions, and acquisition and integration of knowledge, and then extending and refining knowledge. It requires comparison, classification, induction. Making inductions and deductions. Are these words familiar to you?
Yes, sir.
Is there anybody who does not understand these words, induction and deduction? We can spend some time. Give me an example of induction.
Familiarizing with the employees in a company. And
So
when we
Newton
are
law.
Okay.
Newton law he just get a apple from the tree. It was single thing, one information, and he frame a theory of gravitation.
Well, that's an oversimplification of his work. Okay, that we all,
So induction
that's
मतलब
a
basic
that's a
information
folklore.
से
That's a
to
that's a
going
folk.
toward a theory.
Yeah, that's a folklore interpretation of his very hard work. एक एप्पल देखा और उसने थ्योरी बना दी. ऐसा नहीं हुआ था. एप्पल देख के थ्योरी नहीं
it
बनाई
just
थी. एप्पल देख के
I'll just
he had to do
simplify
a
the
lot of hard
example,
work.
sir.
In
Yes,
between,
sir.
there is a lot of hard work.
Sir, I just simplified the
Right.
example. It is just
But
from
yes,
the
तुमने
information से किसी theory की तरफ move करना is induction, and from the theory particular things पे
Correct.
जाना is deduction.
Right. From a lot of specific data to come to a generalization, that is induction, and from generalization to specific, that is deduction. Okay, or from generalization to another generalization is also deduction. Okay,
Yes, sir.
जैसे A is a friend of B. B is and B is also a friend of and C is also a friend of B, and D is also a friend of B, and 20 other people are friend of B, and then the generalization would be that B is a friendly person, right? If so many people are friend, if out of so many people that we have come across and we notice that many of them are friendly to B, then we can make a generalization that B is a friendly person, right? So this is induction. Deduction would be A is greater than B, B is greater than C, hence A is greater than C. This is deduction. This is logical deduction. Okay, or there is a rule given that B is a friendly person, and then from that we deduce that B must be friendly to A, B must be friendly to D, like that. Okay, so these kind of processes are mental processes that we take in induction and deduction processes for extending and refining knowledge. हमको ये पता लगा that A is a friend of B, C is a friend of B, D is a friend of B. The knowledge that was given to us was this. From this, we generalized that B is a friendly person. This was the extension of the knowledge. Nobody had given us this information that B is a friendly person. But from lot of observations, we came out with this induction. Okay, this theory that B is a friendly person. Similarly, deduction processes, logical deductions, analyzing errors. That is, I mean, you are given. So analyzing all kind of errors. There are so many kinds of errors that we make. Language में composition errors, spelling errors, grammatical errors, or there are conceptual errors in our writing, or there are many other kind of errors that can be made. Software people know a lot about those errors. Manish, बताओ जरा. Tell us something about the errors that the software guys make, and those errors are very costly. The software, once it is left with errors, can actually end up killing people. You may have heard of some stories where there was a bug in a software, and because of that bug, an aircraft crashed or a spaceship crashed. Okay, because एक comma नहीं लगाया था program के अंदर.
Yes, sir.
या एक comma extra लगा दिया था.
Some stories like कोई बैंक है, अगर किसी के अकाउंट में कोई खूब सारे पैसे हैं, अचानक से उसका पैसा सारा गायब हो जाए और he may suicide. अगर कोई बग हो गया, कोई सिक्योरिटी इशू या तो लॉजिकल एरर, सिंटैक्स एरर की वजह से बहुत परेशानी हो सकती है.
So errors, analyzing errors is a very rewarding activity. जो भी discipline आपका है, उसमें I give you this task. What are the common errors people make? ठीक है? While doing their work, whether it is writing software or taking managerial decisions, what kind of errors people make even while working sincerely? One kind of errors are that they are not sincere, they are not serious, they are inattentive, and hence they are making errors. Even very attentive, very sincere people make errors. Those are bona fide errors, but they can be very costly errors. Do an inventory, create an inventory of some examples of such errors. Okay, what are the common errors that people make? where making such errors is difficult. That's a very good contribution. If we can develop a checklist, if we can develop an automatic system where people will not be making such errors, or it is easier to identify those errors, because now we have studied what kind of errors people usually make, what is the frequency of those errors, and if we can develop a system to rectify those errors, identify those errors, that's a very good contribution. Okay, so these are the various creating summaries, abstracting, etc., analyzing different perspectives from different angles. Okay, or creating a support for something, or analyzing what is the support available to it. These kind of things are extending and refining knowledge. And then, as I told you, making decisions, solving problems, making inventions, investigating a problem. It has happened. Why did it happen? This accident happened. This bridge fell down. It collapsed. Why did it collapse? What went into it? Investigating it. Okay. Or doing laboratory experiments, or doing field experiments, or social experiments. Okay. Or analyzing a system, maybe a technical system or a social system or a managerial system, a company, a business system, analyzing a business system or a variety of business systems. Okay, these are using knowledge meaningfully. You use knowledge to analyze the system. So the knowledge of the organization structure, or knowledge of the management theory, all that is used to analyze a business organization. You want to do improve the HR system of a company. So all the theories of the HR that you have studied would be required to analyze the existing HR system of that theory, of that company, and then suggest improvements in that. Okay, so system analysis is a very cool area, and very, very important area, and I encourage you to look at that. What kind of systems can be analyzed in your area? Okay. Productive habits of mind, I told you: critical thinking, creative thinking, and regulation. Okay, critical thinking, creative thinking, and regulating yourself, making appropriate plans, etc. So all these 5 dimensions together, when they are working, when you are ensuring a harmonious integration of these 5 dimensions, not just one of them, all 5 dimensions, when you are actively engaged in these 5 dimensions, good learning takes place. And that is what you are trying to do in the PhD. Good learning, deep learning, and all these 5 dimensions have to be. So tell me how Solow taxonomy and Bloom taxonomy are kind of integral to this. Tell me how Bloom and Solow taxonomy are in a way integrated within this framework.
Because if the both theories are in a chronological manner, and this theory also is in chronological manner, and it includes
Not
the
chronological word गलत है, chronological word गलत है, chronological नहीं बोलेंगे, progressive manner बोलेंगे, in order है, progressive है, chronological होता है जो time के हिसाब से.
Yeah, progress in they are giving in the progressive order, and in this theory, this is included the same thing. Like first we have to remember something, and then we have to go in a higher order, and we have to synthesize something more. And in this theory, the same thing we are doing.
So dimension 2, 3, and 4 of dimensions of learning,
Yes,
do capture the Solow as well as Bloom also.
yes.
Okay, but dimension 1 and dimension 5 are new additions in this. The Solow taxonomy and Bloom's taxonomy were not talking of